The World Tourism Day 2020 celebration, with the theme Tourism and Rural Development, is brought to you by the Joji Ilagan International School and organized by APacCHRIE, the tourism program student organization of the Joji Ilagan College of Business and Tourism.
Tourism practitioners, industry partners, and stakeholders, and to our speakers as well. Mabuhay ug madayaw. It's a wonderful day of this month that we have gathered, and it's exhilarating that we will be engaging virtually and talk about our rural tourism development and its ability to provide opportunity for the people outside of the metropolitan. This is Fostering Rural Tourism Development webinar in celebration of the World Tourism Day 2020, Tourism and Rural Development. This is Isel Cabrera, one of the instructors of the Joji Ilagan International Schools, your Masters of Ceremony for this morning. Before we start our forum, let me just shortly read to you our webinar etiquette. So for the interaction, please use our chat box, and you are automatically muted, but in case you are not, please mute your microphone to avoid distraction. Step up your space, set up your space so you can listen carefully. And for the question and answer portion, use our chat box so you can direct your questions to our specific speaker. All right, so to formally start to the highest point of this forum, let us hear first the welcome address to be given to us by the dynamic and extreme Chief Operating Officer of the Joji Ilagan International Schools, Ms. Nicole Nina I. Bian Ledesma.
Good morning, everyone. Mabuhay ug madayaw. Good morning to our webinar, and good morning from Davao City, Philippines. So this morning as one, together with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, we are celebrating World Tourism Day with the theme Tourism and Rural Development. So the World Tourism Day really falls on September 27 every year. And that is why we are having this webinar even on a Sunday morning. So thank you everyone for joining us. And this is actually the 12th year that JIB Schools is in one with UNWTO in celebrating World Tourism Day. So to start, I would like to thank our tourism student organization, the Voluptuaria, for spearheading this event. Yesterday, we had a successful student forum with about 600 participants. So congratulations. And then today, we are co-hosting this event together with the Davao Tourism Association. So let me also acknowledge the presence of the DATA President, Mr. Gachi Gatchalian. We are also very fortunate to have with us this morning our esteemed speakers, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk and Dr. Nair, who will be properly introduced later on. So as we all know, and as we have experienced firsthand, with the global pandemic that we are in today, our industry is indeed in unprecedented time. But now more than ever, this also reminds us the important role of tourism and that tourism can be a driver of growth and recovery amidst this pandemic. So all over the world, it is very apparent that tourism creates opportunities and empowers our communities, most especially the women and the youth. And because of that today, we are all at the forefront of all these opportunities. But like any opportunity that comes our way, this also comes with responsibilities. So I challenge you, our dear students, registrants, attendees, our industry partners. I challenge you that even as you are now in your homes, let us be one in advocating for rural tourism and empowerment. Because together, indeed, we can build a better world for everyone. So with that, I congratulate you all for taking the first step in joining us this Sunday morning. We also have attendees, not just from the Philippines, but also from Hong Kong, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and India. So with that, once again, congratulations to our Tourism Student Organization. Congratulations to Davao Tourism Association. Happy World Tourism Day Cheers and mabuhay!
There you go. Thank you so much, and mabuhay. Thank you so much, Miss Nicole, for that exceptional speech, for welcoming our participants, and informally opening our virtual and intellectual gathering this morning. And yes, at this moment, lend us your ears as Ms. Dayang Sherman Mahadali, the Vice President for External of the Voluptuary Organization, will introduce our first speaker this morning.
Mabuhay og Madayaw. It is my honor to introduce to you our first speaker. He is considered as one of the world's foremost authorities on international tourism. He has over 25 years experience in the Las Vegas hotel industry. He received both his bachelor's and Master of Science degree from the University of Nevada in Las Vegas. He earned his doctorate in educational leadership from the University of La Verne in California. He has held senior executive positions at Hotel, Boyd Hotels, and the Tropicana. Worked on such projects as the opening of the MGM Grand and hotel training at numerous Las Vegas hotels, including Rio Hotels, Luxor, Caesars, and Mandalay Bay, among others. Due to his tourism expertise, he has been involved in numerous hotel projects internationally and has consulted in tourism projects in France, Egypt, Ukraine, Saipan, Japan, China, and Korea. He was a member of Singapore's Tourism Consultative Committee, providing strategic advice for Singapore's Tourism 2020 plan. The Singapore Tourism Board presented him with the Business Event Ambassador Award at the prestigious Singapore's Awards events. He was also involved with the opening of the Marina Bay Sands Integrated Resort in Singapore. He is the past president of APacCHRIE and is a leader in both the academic and the professional worlds of hospitality development. He is an internationally renowned speaker, facilitating workshops, teaching courses, and addressing conferences and conventions for hotel professionals and academics on topics including strategic planning, customer service, human resource motivation, security, education, and hospitality management. In 2016, he completed his position at Taylor's University as Senior VP of International Relations in Malaysia. All the way from Subic, ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome virtually our speaker, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk. A virtual round of applause, please.
And welcome to everyone. Can everyone see me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay, very good. And then welcome to our World Tourism Rural Development Day. I'm Dr. Andy Nazarechuk, and thank you for that warm introduction. And I'm looking forward to sharing you some of the ideas that I have about rural tourism, because you may wonder after you hear that description, why would someone who lived in Las Vegas want to talk about and worked with some of the biggest hotels in the world want to talk about rural tourism? Well, it's an interesting story, and I think today I'm going to explain to you why rural tourism is at the moment probably the best option for people who need to improve their jobs, to find new ways to develop income because of the world pandemic right now. So let's get started. I'll talk to you about a few things. First, let's talk about travel in general. Does everybody remember when you used to travel, you dream about going to Paris, you dream about going to Hong Kong, you dream about going anywhere? Well, right now you can't go anywhere because the travel restrictions are so tight. I can't go to Hong Kong, I can't go to Singapore, I can't go to the US easily. Everything is a challenge. So what does that mean? Well, that means that airlines around the world are shut down in most part. Planes are sitting on airports around the world. Cruise ships are not going anywhere. I just saw a story yesterday where 50 different cruise ships in different countries have decided not to do any cruises until next year. And so there is going to be a lot of people who had dreams of travel this year in any shape or form that are not going to be able to do it. So let's think about what it looks like. I think it looks something like this. that we're sort of all trapped in our homes. You know, we're locked into our homes. We've been told we can't go out. When we do go out, we have limited places we could go. And on the other side, from the tourism side, it actually comes down to that restaurants are closed because they don't have enough customers. Some places are not allowed to open. Some places are looking for customers, but the products that they offer are not working. So there's a large number of people that are sort of that are stuck at home waiting for a reason to go out. Now, a lot of you are students of travel, and so the key question I have for you is, why do people travel? You know, people travel for adventure. People travel to experience things that they've never had before. All those things are great, and all those things are wonderful, but I'm going to tell you the one thing that I think that people escape, they're trying to escape from boredom. And is there any other time that you can imagine when you have been locked up at home for months and months that people are bored? So they're looking for some kind of escape. And the escapes are rather limited. This is an example of some concert, an event where, you know, it's very colorful. There's a lot of people. Everybody's excited. Everybody wants to be there. So they're not bored. That's why they go there. They go there for the excitement, to escape from their day-to-day lives. That's what travel provides and offer. Concerts are another area. Music concerts, yeah, you wanted to go to a concert. So even concert performers are not performing concerts because they're not allowed to. People can't gather in large groups. So this is a problem. You want to go to a big event like this, but you can't. How about sporting events? That's another area that's very popular. You know, people want to go to baseball games. They want to go to basketball games. In the US, they were trying to go to football games, and they can't. All the stands are empty. I was just watching an event yesterday on TV for a few minutes, and they were playing the game, and when you look behind them, the stands were empty. It's terrible. This is our business: events, tourism, travel. People want to go out to do things. So the real question is, if you wanted to go to a festival today, you couldn't, because it just doesn't happen. So the world is going into a new normal. That's what you hear, reimagining a new normal. All of those things are interesting, but festivals in different towns have been canceled. Sporting events have been changed to there's no audience. Concerts have changed. So we're all going online. This is what we do. We all go online every day. We sit in front of our computers and we have classes, and we chat with our friends, we chat with our families. And you know what? We're very lucky that we have that opportunity to do it, because many years ago, we wouldn't even be able to do this. So we're fortunate that we're actually able to continue in a different vein, at least online, trying to communicate with each other, trying to learn from each other, trying to continue to share information and have entertainment needs. So people are watching many more movies online, which is great, except it's not a good use of your time. So what do you think people are looking to do right now? Well, they want to go to concerts. They want to go to restaurants. They want to go to busy restaurants, and they want to eat with their friends, and they want to have a good time. But that isn't possible now either. So we have to come up with new ways for people to enjoy themselves that allow them to not only escape from boredom, but to have a great experience, to do something unique, and to do something that is within the rules of whatever country you're in, wearing your mask, social distancing, knowing where you're going, all those different things that allow you to go and travel in a safe and positive way. So what do people want? Well, they want to escape this. This is what the world looks like now. I can't go into my mall unless I wear a mask and a face shield. I've never done that in my entire life. But now I can't go into a mall, to a store, unless I have a mask and a face shield. And so everyone's wearing masks, everyone's wearing face shield. You feel confined, you feel trapped in your own environment, and you want to try to escape. So where do we want to go? Outdoors. So if you look at this picture, this is a good example. This is the first example I'm going to give you. Going outdoors is what we can do, what we're allowed to do, and at this point we want to do because we want to get out of our houses. So this picture, I picked this picture because it's a very easy one. It's just a big open field. And what did they do during the summer? Well, they put kids on bicycles and they make it a bike route, and so people are having fun on their bicycles. A great example of multi-use facility. What is this facility in the wintertime? It's a ski resort. They go skiing down this on the snow. And so ski resorts had the same problem that we have now. Well, what do we do with our facilities during the times when we can't use it? We have to be creative and come up with something else. So here is one example of how they took a ski resort. In the summer, they turned it into a motorbike range or a training facility where people can come ride their bicycles and have fun. A great example of going outdoors, and an example of something that people in the past may not have chosen to do, but today they want to do it because it may be the only thing they can do to get exercise and get some outdoor activity. Let's try another one. How about this one? This is from Sweden. Now, is this a crowded restaurant? No, it's not. Is it a family having a great experience together? Yes, it is. So outdoors experiences are going to be the new trend. And where better to do outdoor experiences, but in those places that we never used to go before, rural tourism. Rural areas have space. Rural areas don't have the crowds. Some places are very beautiful. Some places are very interesting. We'll get to that later. But each area in a rural area has something to offer that they do every single day. They experience it every single day, except they don't realize that it is a tourism opportunity for them to provide that service, that area, as a tourism attraction for people to come, especially now because they don't have other locations. So take a look at this picture. They're sitting at a table by a lake and they're having dinner or lunch or whatever it is. Who cares? But the question is that could be an event that someone is selling to this group. Come to our backyard, sit at this table, and we will provide the food, and we'll provide a campfire, and we will put you next to a lake, if you have one, to enjoy an outdoor activity. So this is one example of how you can promote your environment to bring people to enjoy it. Let's try another one. How about friends? Now, if you look at this picture, it's just a group of people having a picnic. Well, you know, having a picnic these days is one thing that we just can't do at home. And we can't even go outside because there's so many people. So getting in a car, driving somewhere, picking up your basket from someone who's maybe selling it, or bringing your own, or someone who prepared it for you, and going someplace that has already been reserved for you so that it's private, is one way for you to enjoy some time with your friends. Now, if you look at this environment, this looks like some farm, a field somewhere. So it's not a beautiful place. It's an attractive place, but it's just a farm. But it is socially isolated. It's fresh air, it's outdoors, it allows the friends to get together. They can play some music, they can eat their food, they can do their games, they can do whatever they want, but they feel safe in this environment, and it's a way for them to escape from the current confinement they have because of the pandemic. I think this is an interesting one. Now, of course, we can go even romantic. You know, all the young students out there today still go on dates, I hope. But now they're probably doing more talking online on video conferencing, Facebook and Instagram. Well, you know, you should take your person on a date, but where are you going to go? Well, if you get a table and you go to a field and you have someone who will service that table and provide dinner for you or give you the food to take with you, anywhere you put a table with a view is a great place to take your date. That's simple. But you need to know where to go. You need to know who offers this type of service. And trust me, if there was a list of places where you could say, I could take a date to this place, at this romantic setting, in this socially distanced table, in a rural area that has never been to before, some people would be happy to do that and pay for it, because that romantic date experience would be something that they would never forget. But it's still something can be done on a very small scale, home by home. Now, how about this one? You know, these are just some examples of people that are providing unique overnight stays. This is an old motorhome that they built a deck, they put some lights, they're in a natural environment, and people go there and spend the night. They escape from the city. They escape from their apartments. They escape from those places to go to a place where they can breathe the fresh air and have an outdoor experience. This is something anyone can do if they're creative and if they promote it properly. How about this one? I like this one. This is a bus, an old bus that somebody converted into some kind of little condo. You know, has a solar cells, has a couple tables, you know, not even the nicest looking thing, but if you went there and spent a night or two, it'd be an experience, wouldn't it? You're in the forest, you're in the trees, you're in nature. And before you might have said, no, I'd rather go to a concert, I'd rather go to an event, I'd rather go to a sporting event, but you can't do all those other things. So now you have the opportunity to do something that you would never have chosen to do before. And believe me, if you do these kinds of things, and if the rural communities offer these kinds of things, more people will come, more people will take advantage of these unique and close to nature opportunities. Of course, you have to be sustainable. Let's talk about this is what, you know, this is very popular, taking shipping containers, old shipping containers, converting them into different types of residential office, overnight stays, or little hotels or rooms, or even houses. You know, this is a great example of reusing things in order to use it for accommodations. So you could put a shipping container anywhere, pick it up, drop it someplace, put a couple windows in it, clean the inside, fix it up as a, and there you go. You got your own personal little hotel. Every place has a special place where they go. If you go into a community, they take you for, this is our best lake, this is our best mountain, this is our best secret forest, this is our best garden. All those places are popular for people to take. So offer educational, cultural tours of what you feel in your community is important, and people will come and see it. And you can do that on a very small scale. Of course, I saw this chart as I was preparing for this talk. Food. You know, Filipinos love food. There's no doubt about it. So here's a map of China that I saw, and it had different food from different sections. You want to eat a different food, you go to that particular location, and they specialize in that food. Here's another one a little close up. So, you know, each area has their specialty. So if you want to travel to a place to see, not only eat the food, but how it's picked from the farm, how it's processed, how people make specialty items for it. A lot of fruits and things never make it to the big markets because there's not enough. It stays in the local market. So let's talk about Davao. Now, I've been to Davao once and I had a great time. But you know, Davao has a lot of things I didn't even know they had. And number one, they sell a lot of coconuts. Okay, great. Where do coconuts come from? You know, I get the coconut at the store, sometimes on the street, but I don't know that there's a guy out there where they're producing them, they're making it. It's like reality TV. You want to see where these things are designed. So if you look at the cocoa, the center one, first time I ever saw one was in Davao. They have a wonderful chocolate factory there. Place where it comes from, you see where it's made, the mangosteen, the durian, all these things. And then I saw this one of the most popular banana snacks. All those things that you have locally in a city that you take for granted, other people find it interesting. I got a couple more here. I've never even seen this one before. I know some of you have. I think it's a marang. Is that what it is? You know, but all those things are popular. They're interesting. You can have specialty items. There's always that one home, that one local person who knows how to prepare it better than anyone else. That's what people can do in rural tourism. Of course, for me, the favorite thing in Davao is the pomelo. I go there, that's the only thing I want to eat. But I have never seen where that pomelo came from. I want to go to the pomelo farm. I want to watch them pick that pomelo off the tree. I want to see how they get it from those trees into those beautiful little boxes that they sell at the store. All that is kind of interesting. And when you go there for a purpose that you do something different, then it becomes a memorable event. How do you do all this? You know, the easiest way to get into the hotel business these days is Airbnb. You can take a picture of your room, put it online, and you can start selling it as a hotel tomorrow. It's very easy to do. So Airbnb has changed the way that people choose to travel. Now, before I would stay at a hotel, but if I'm traveling today in today's world, do I want to stay in a big hotel with a lot of people? Not really, not with a pandemic. I want to stay in a small place where there's very few people. And Airbnb provides those kind of opportunities. And there's many different kinds of choices. And what do people look for when they look for Airbnb? They look for a clean place. So take a look at your facilities if you want to do Airbnb. Is it clean? Not the clean like you're clean for mom. Clean it like you're cleaning for a 5-star hotel. Safety is another issue. And safety these days means social distance, proper procedures, cleaned every day, spray it with the bleach, do whatever you have to do to ensure that the guests that see your place say, this place was safe and clean. Security is important, so lighting, that's why I would put lighting. And of course, these days you can't go anywhere without having the internet, so make sure you have a good Wi-Fi. And if you have those 5 things, then your facility is prepared to attract people to your destination. Those are, see, these are the sort of entrepreneurial ideas to say, if you are having trouble and you want to make additional income, you have something that other people want. You just don't realize it. So taking your current environment, looking at it from a different perspective, seeing what makes your community special, all of those things together can be sold as a tourist attraction for rural tourism. Now, I'm a businessman, I'm an educator, I have done a lot of advising for countries, and the biggest thing that countries always want is how are we going to bring more people here who are going to leave their money and have a good time, take nothing with them and go home. Sort of the same thing. You want a small group of people to come to your community to experience your rural tourism activity, whatever it may be, and you want them to leave a few dollars, you want to have them a great experience, and then you want them to leave. So it doesn't affect the overall environment of your world. You control it by having lower numbers. Now, I know our next speaker, Dr. Vic Nair, is going to tell you about rural tourism. He is the expert on rural tourism. He will show you case studies from around the world. He's going to tell you how to do it properly. He has traveled to all these different places, rural communities, helping them set up rural destinations. My job is to give ideas, and so I hope that you will find that these ideas have helped you give some thought to how you can take advantage of it. Now, before I leave, I want to make sure that I invite you to our weekly webinar. Some of you have been to it before. I see some hands waving. 30-minute talks. We do it every Wednesday at 2 o'clock. Every week we have something exciting we talk about. Last week we had Mount Everest, which was an excellent presentation. I learned so much from that presentation. I'm looking forward to someday visiting Mount Everest myself. Next week, we're actually talking about creative ideas for our businesses to reopen with Dr. Perry Hobson, Mr. Alan Williams, and myself. We're going to be doing a discussion on that in more detail. And then the following week, we're going to be talking about India. We have a speaker from India, our friend from Jammu, University of Jammu. He's going to talk about the status in India. So every week we do something different. So you can go to our website right there. You can sign up, register for next week. It's free. We offer it to all students around the world, and we always have a large group of students that join us. So I want to thank you for giving me the time to share some of my views on rural tourism, and I hope that you'll have some questions for us later. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk. Indeed, that was an stunning information that you have delivered to us. And the rural tourism really has the ability to provide us new experiences and opportunities. And of course, opens up new possibilities that we must not take for granted. And of course, in lifting up back the tourism through rural tourism. Once again, thanks a million, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk. Let us give Dr. Andy our virtual round of applause, please.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right, at this juncture, let us now proceed to our second speaker to be introduced by Mr. Errol Caltalaba, a Volpari officer.
Errol has to turn his mic on.
Mr. Errol?
Mabuhay ug madayaw everyone. So our second speaker is coming from the University of the Bahamas. He is currently the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research and Professor in Sustainable Tourism at the University of the Bahamas, and prior to joining in University of the Bahamas in 2017. He was at Taylor's University in Malaysia for 19 years as a full professor at the School of Hospitality, Tourism and Culture Arts, leader of the Responsible Rural Tourism Network, and a research fellow of the Center for Research and Development at the Tourism. His research specialization is in sustainable and responsible tourism, rural tourism, ecotourism management, environmental management, community-based tourism, and green tourism. He was also the past president of Asia Pacific Council for Hotel, Restaurant, and Institutional Education, a past vice president of Malaysia Ecotourism Association, and the past secretary of the Tourism Educators Association of Malaysia. He is well sought after keynote speaker across the globe and visiting professor to universities in Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Thailand, India, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Japan, Myanmar, Taiwan, France, and also in the Bahamas. Please help me welcome Dr. Vikneswaran Nair, PhD. A virtual round of applause, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Before let me first of all share my screen. Okay, so I hope you are able to see my screen. Firstly, good morning to everybody in the Philippines. It's good evening over here. It's 9:30 9 p.m. over here in Malaysia, in the Bahamas. At present, we are experiencing some bad weather. So in fact, I had a power cut just a few minutes before we started. So the power is a bit unstable. So I have to manage the bandwidth. So I hope you will bear with me, especially in me sharing my video and also the presentation. So I think for my presentation, I'm going to shut the video first so that it doesn't impact the flow of my presentation today. Okay. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to launch my first book on rural tourism. I have published extensively, but the first book that I have published on rural tourism was launched yesterday in conjunction with the World Tourism Day. The book is entitled Responsible Rural Tourism in Asia. So this book is available now in the market. So the book was very much to focus on some of the best practice in Asia and how we can learn from the rurality scene in Asia for the whole world to understand. So this book basically consists of 12 case studies that include various cases from different parts of Asia. So we have actually grouped the chapters in this book into 3 main themes. And the first one is on harmony between human and nature in molding rural tourism in Asia, where we have case studies from Bhutan and China. And then the second theme is an essentially Asian form of rural tourism, where we have case studies from Japan, Vietnam, and India. And then the theme 3 is tourism that takes place in rural areas. So here we even have case studies from the Philippines, Turkey, Vietnam, Timor-Leste, Cambodia, and also Malaysia. So if you do get a chance, please try to get access to this book, because we have a 75% discount for the book currently. You just need to take note of the code RRTA75 and you get a 75% discount of this book until the 30th of September through Channel View publication website. So this is a small promotion before I begin. All right. So what is great about this book is it is launched at the right time, just 1 day before the actual World Tourism Day. Okay, tourism and rural development is our theme, and this book has been launched exactly at the right time. We did not plan it that way, but as we were about to launch the book, the theme for this year was tied very well with the theme of the book. So if you look at tourism in Asia, pre-COVID, okay, before COVID, Asia is regarded as the fastest growing area for international and domestic tourism in the world today. And over the next 20 years, given the economic, social, and environmental importance of tourism in the region, there is a need for a comprehensive and a readable overview of all the debates and controversies that is going around the world over here. And look at where we are now, post-COVID. We are still exploring what this new norm is going to be. So as what Dr. Andy started the presentation today, so it's great for him to start his presentation. I always admire Andy because he always make a difficult topic very easy for you to understand. So I'm going to go to the more difficult part of this topic, the rural tourism aspect of it, and how do we manage this by learning from the best practice around Asia. The many interfaces of the Asian cultural and natural heritage with tourism that you see is important for you to understand, because the setting, the tourism setting, is very different from one country to another. Rural tourism is progressively viewed as a solution, okay, to increasing the economic viability of marginalized area. So that is why it's very key for us to really focus on this, not just because of the situation that we are in currently due to COVID, but also it is one of the ways for you to look at developing your local community. So if you look at over the last many months, with the impact of COVID, from 6,000 cases when we started in February to where we are hitting 37 million. So basically, this is to show you that this virus is going to be around for a while. So this is not something that is going to just go away just like that. So the earliest you're looking at is about 2022. If you're lucky, things will get to almost normal or to a new normal. At the same time, there's a massive impact across the globe on the tourism industry. Okay, so all these charts, I'm sure you have seen many of these charts, the impact that it has created to the cruise industry, to the airline industry, to the number of tourists that is coming, to the income that you earn. So it is going to be severe. Will we ever even take a cruise holiday in the future? What is life after this lockdown? So these are a lot of questions that comes into our mind. Will COVID change the way we travel forever? Will international travel ever recover from this COVID pandemic? You will travel after COVID, but it will not be the same anymore. In fact, there were already people coining words on what do you call the generation who's experiencing this COVID now? Is this the generation C, the Covidials, or the Coronials? So what do you call them? So there are a lot of terminology that is being explored currently. So research have basically shown that when they started predicting what is the future of travel post-COVID, okay? So key research have shown that the most important trend that is coming, and this is also relevant to even rural tourism, is these three bullets that you see there: the health and safety aspect, okay, family travel and domestic tourism, and the travel sale and promotion deals. It should be user-friendly, where you are able to pull out from a travel 24 hours without being penalized. So this trend is actually changing the way how we move. So a lot of the presentation that Dr. Andy have done has actually covered this. So this is something that we cannot run away from. But again, as we go through this pandemic, there's always a challenge of how do you balance between the health pandemic versus the economic pandemic. You cannot stay locked down for too long. How do you find the right rural tourism development to overcome this dilemma? So coming into our topic here, rural tourism. How do you create a responsible rural tourism industry? So the concept of responsible rural tourism focuses on tourism operations that are managed in a sustainable way, that it can continue to deliver the benefits for the community. Typically, rural tourism destinations have all these following characteristics that you see here: located in remote areas, small scale, wide open spaces, closely associated with nature. So all these are the images that you saw in Dr. Andy's presentation just now. This is something doable, okay? In addition, rural tourism destinations essentially have distinct characteristics. So what is this characteristic that fits well in this current pandemic that we are in? Low levels of tourism development and opportunities for visitors to directly experience the local economy, which can be, which is mainly in agriculture or focus on natural environment or any other non-urban settings. But at the same time, there's a lot of stress that is created to rural tourism destination even before COVID. The growth of tourism industry throughout the years has created an increasing amount of stress economically, socially, and environmentally, as the carrying capacity or the limit for the destination is not checked or adhered to, as indicated in many studies over the last many years. You have also experienced your own experience in Boracay, where you had to shut it down for a period of time because of the capacity, the stress that you have created to this island. Nonetheless, the concept of rural tourism now has melded with mainstream tourism in many destinations in Asia. As a result, rural tourism as a niche tourism product has lost its distinctness in many parts of the world. So without careful attention to the balance between the volume and the type of rural tourists that you're going to be attracting, this will impact the sensitiveness of the resources that you actually have in rural destination. So you can develop rural tourism, but you need to understand it is quite sensitive. It can harm you environmentally, economically, and social culturally. It can be self-destructive if it is not done correctly. So understanding these complex dimensions that work in Asia, which may be similar or in different parts, different from other parts of the world, okay, may or may not be the same, but there is a critical way of us to actually understand how rural tourism can actually impact a particular community. So rural tourism in Asia has its own uniqueness. So from my publication, when we studied all the case studies from different parts of the world, we can actually see that there is there's something unique about the Asian form of rural tourism. So the Western world wants to experience that as well. So we are trying to learn from the Asian culture and also trying to bring it over to the Western world. So in short, achieving sustainability does not mean that the destination's quality of life will be lost. That is not what we're trying to say here. What sustainability does is just change the mindset and value towards a less consumptive lifestyle in any destination. So this lifestyle is critical to the success of many rural tourism destinations in Asia. So I'm sure you have seen this diagram very often, the three pillars of sustainability. So it's always a challenge to find what is the right balance. Is it the first diagram is the right balance? But at the same time, you also have the two other diagrams that you may not have seen. So if you look at the two other diagrams there, in many destinations, the three pillars of sustainability quite often obscure the real relationship between the economic, the social, and environment. Can they then be regarded as equal in any ecosystem? So it depends on your destination. In all responsible rural tourism destination, the question of which dimension takes precedent. Is it the environment is the most critical one, or is it the social? So you cannot have the first, the three pillars that you see, the first diagram, which is quite often that we use, applied in all the destination. It will change according to the destination. So the three pillars here, the people, the three P's, people, planet, and profit. But of course, at the same time, there's also the fourth P, the politics, which can totally disorientate the whole equilibrium that you have in place. So this is another thing that we have to think about. So when you talk about rural tourism, so defining rural tourism may seem very obvious, obviously, okay, tourism that takes place in countryside, but this definition does not include the complexity of the activity and the different forms and meanings developed in different countries. So the meaning may be different from the developed countries versus the developing countries. So you cannot blindly say that what works in Asia works in the Western world, and what works in the Western world doesn't work in Asia. Then there's a lot of negative connotation to rurality in developing countries. When you say someone is from a rural background, there's immediate negative connotation put towards it. But in a developed country, when you say rural countryside, people are willing to pay high amount of money to experience that. But in a developing nation, when you say rural, they say, okay, it's going to be cheap, it's going to be basic, it may not be safe. You have that sort of mindset. So that impacts the low yield versus high yield, how much money you make from rural tourism. So there are core dimensions of rurality here that is important, and it applies even in the Philippines. Location, okay? Location characteristic. When you talk about rural and when you talk about the current norm that we are in, everyone is running away from the crowd. They want to experience rurality, as what Dr. Andy said. I want the outdoor life. And this is the opportunity for rural destination to develop themselves. The purpose of visit is another important dimension when you talk about rurality, because most people want to get away. Okay, they want to get out from the urban city. They want to experience some countryside with nice ambience. And then what kind of attraction activities that you have? If someone is willing to spend few hours to reach this rural destination, there must be something unique. So every destination must have something unique for you to attract these people to experience rural tourism. And then the sustainability part. Okay, how are you managing the local community's economy, the environment, the social cultural aspect? That becomes critical. That is an important dimension in rurality. And of course, the stakeholders, the people involved, the local community, the operators, the government's role, the NGO's role, everyone have a role to play, including the visitors. When tourists come to a destination, what is their role? What do they actually do? So moving forward, prior to COVID pandemic, if you see, tourism was the world's largest employer. Okay, is it still going to be the same? We don't know. Things may change, at least it may slow down, or you will see a new norm that is appearing. So the question will re-emerge as an agent of local and global change that is taking place currently. So how can we use our experience, our network and approach to engage and support the tourism sector and the planet to build back better, happier, and fitter for sustainability? So if you look at some countries, like one example which is captured in my book is Bhutan. Okay, so most countries use GDP as a measurement to see how successful is a particular country. But if you look at Bhutan, they use what they call the gross national happiness, the GNH, rather than GDP. Okay, GNH is a philosophy that guides the development of Bhutan. Okay, it's a small landlocked country in the Himalayas with around 700,000 people. So there's one organization, Planet Happiness. When you have the chance, please do Google them, Our Heritage, ourhappiness.org, which was founded by Dr. Paul Rogers, where they have actually focused this GNH, where rural development is done based on 4 principles: caring, compassion, comprehension, and collaboration. And what is good about this aspect as well is this GNH ties very well with the Sustainable Development Goal. We have the 17 SDGs, and this principle of the GNH basically touches that. And this is actually what we need to do as far as rural tourism is concerned, because at the end of the day, if you are able to fulfill the 17 SDGs, then you are moving in the right direction towards achieving the SDG goals in 2030. And then you have another concept that has came out recently, and this I had the opportunity to write about it just a few days ago. It was published in the newspapers locally here: regenerative tourism. So what do you mean by regenerative tourism? Okay, so re-emerging. So this is not a new concept. The tourism industry is still hopeful changes to take place in the industry. More and more people are getting more conscious of crowdness. They're more conscious of destinations that are responsible, as what Dr. Andy have mentioned as well. But if you look at the whole concept of regenerative tourism, it looks similar to sustainable tourism. When you use the word sustainable tourism, you are sustaining. You're not improving it. You're just maintaining it to a certain level, but so that your future generation can enjoy. But when you look at the concept of regenerative tourism, it's slightly different. You are making it better. Okay, regenerative travel or tourism is basically leaving a place better than you found it. Okay, maybe this is the way forward for many countries. Okay, so whatever tourism product, whatever tourism project that you're working on, including rural development, you have to look at this concept of regenerative tourism, where we are trying to not just looking at over tourism or under tourism, but how do we get high yield? It's pointless to get mass tourists coming in and you don't make money out of them. What is the point? You're damaging and you don't get the experience. The tourists do not get the experience. So you are looking at high yield. So this regenerative tourism concept is becoming more and more popular. So the focus here, focus on recovery of the destination becomes very critical. So if you look at this diagram here, inclusive destination planning. So this has become important. The role of government, the private sector, and local community. So in any rural development, these 3 stakeholder becomes critical for you to develop the recovery of any destination. So in the current situation that we are in, it is becoming more and more important. So at the end of the day, what is also important is how do you sell this rural tourism product? There are three ways to actually sell it. Okay. Tourism in the environment. Tourism is inside the environment. Okay. So if you look at adventure tourism, you go for scuba diving, you go for mountain climbing. The tourism is inside the environment. That is one way of selling rural tourism. Rural tourism is about the environment. The focus is on the environment because you have the best flora and fauna. You have the best wildlife that you want to showcase. You have the best fishes that you want to showcase. So that becomes tourism about the environment. And then the third one is tourism for the environment. This is the ecotourism, the learning, the conservation. So rural tourism can actually cut across all the three things that you see here: in the environment, about the environment, and for the environment. So you can actually design rural tourism packages based on this that you see here. So at the end of the day, what is more critical for us is we need to stay resilient. This crisis will reshape the industry's future landscape. A new norm is taking shape. Okay, a lot of uncertainties we are learning as we go. However, what is certain is we cannot operate as usual anymore. Business as usual approach is almost certainly wrong. We cannot do that anymore. Okay, so we need to think of being resilient. The essence of a resilient tourism destination is the ability for the destination to regroup, reevaluate, rebuild, and recover. You need to be able to advance yourself despite all the adversity which we are facing now. So what is key here is governance. Okay, so the governance becomes very key. A good governance is key element in any policy making and building the capacity for the resilience economically, environmentally, and social culturally. Diversification of the economy becomes important. If you are focused so much on tourism, then you got to diversify into other areas as well. If you're not doing tourism, but you're only focused on agriculture, then maybe it's time to go into agri-tourism. How can rural destination open to tourists? Okay, so it becomes important. The key word here is you need to diversify, because we have seen countries that have focused so much on tourism is struggling now because they did not diversify. So you got to understand what is the key economic sector in your place, and you got to diversify accordingly. Enhancing the local business climate is also as important, especially local businesses in rural destination. How do you find businesses that can sustain itself? Rainy day fund. When you say rainy day fund, is basically having strong reserve of funds to cushion during any impact. So this is critical, especially in the norms that we are living now. Even in the Philippines, you have a lot of natural disaster that takes place. You have typhoons that is coming. This is similar to the Bahamas. We have 6 months of hurricane season from June to November. So every year, if you're lucky, you don't get hit. The intensity may be less, but you have it. So you must have this rainy day fund or reserve fund that is put in place. So every industry in the Bahamas have this put in place so that they can sustain. If the business is not moving for the next few months, they are able to withstand that. So it's the same over here as well. So at the end of the day, just to conclude, responsible rural tourism is indeed becoming an important agenda of the tourism industry in Asia and also in the Philippines. Rural tourism has contributed significantly in terms of income generation to developing countries in Asia, given its ability to eradicate poverty and improve the quality of life of communities away from urban development. The demand for rural tourism product has significantly increased in recent years. Post-COVID-19, as what Dr. Andy have mentioned as well, the demand will further increase. As visitors now, if you see, the visitors and tourists are moving away from mass tourism. They want niche tourism, and rural tourism is certainly the preferred form of tourism. So the spiritual values that you have in Asia, the Asian rurality, also need to be preserved and reinvented in the face of the onslaught of tourists that is going to actually come to rural areas, especially in Asia. So this is crucial, as the increase in the tourist arrival may lead to merely more general tourism activities that is taking shape in rural areas rather than trying to focus on offering a unique form of responsible rural tourism. So don't fall on the trap that, okay, more tourists is going to come for your rural destination, and hence you forget the very essence of what rural tourism is all about. So this is important because we are moving into these new norms that is going to change rapidly over the next many years. The style of people traveling is going to differ, and the reason why people travel is also going to change accordingly. So we want to ensure that whatever development that is taking place currently is very that the changes that is happening now is going to be for a while, and you need to ensure that you are ready for this new experience that is taking shape across the globe. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentation, and I'll be glad for any question and discussion later. Thank you. I think you're
All
okay.
right. So thank you so much, Dr. Vic, for that insightful information that you have shared to all of us. True enough that the best escape we can do in the midst of pandemic is to experience rural destinations and at the same time make it more sustainable while still conforming with the standards and of course with resiliency, because opportunities for rural tourism is undeniably clear and colorful that we must really take into account in providing endless possibilities. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Vic. At this moment in time, let us now open the virtual floor for the question and answer portion. If you have any question, please type it to our chat box so that we can ask your question to our speakers this morning. Of course, let me start that. I have prepared here a question. Um, Dr. Andy or Dr. Vic could answer this. So the first question that I have in mind is, different countries have different prioritizes when or priorities when it comes to balancing the social, political. What are other things that must they prioritize in terms of the um, rural tourism development? Can you
Yeah.
give us specific examples on how do we find this we called balance thing?
Yeah. Okay, maybe I can answer that. I think if you look at the one of the diagram that I showed you earlier, the three pillars, the three circles there. In most destination, when we talk about sustainability, the tendency is we will always use the word finding the right balance between economy, the environment, and the social. By the same time, I also showed you two other diagrams where the environment is the base. So you got to look at your destination. If in your destination, if you find the most critical aspect of the destination is the environment, the survival of the local communities depend on the environment. So I give you an example over here in the Bahamas. So we have beautiful picturesque islands across the Bahamas. By the same time, there's the pressure coming from a lot of huge cruise companies who wants to put their port in this island. So what is the impact of bringing cruise liners into this beautiful island? Environmentally, it's going to damage. By the same time, the local peoples are happy about it. Why? They're bringing in income. It's going to help our economy, but it is a very long, short-term goals that they have set. I'm going to get income. I'm going to get a lot of money from this cruise tourists coming. But once the environment is totally damaged, this cruise company is going to move to another island. And what's going to happen to the local community over there? They are going to be struggling after that. So the long-term solution is not there. So in that situation, the environment become key. So in some location, if you look at in Thailand, there are a lot of destinations in Thailand. The culture is so intact. the most important is the local community's culture. That is the most important aspect of the rural development. So you got to decide when you develop rural destination, you need to decide what is the core in this rural destination. Is it the environment? Is it the indigenous community's culture? What is the, normally it's between these two, the social and the social, cultural, and the environment. The economy is important as well, but if the people are not happy and the environment is damaged, it will impact the economy as well.
Indeed. Thank you so much. How about Dr. Andy? Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, you know, the Dr. Vic point out the key points in that, and I'll add to that. Even if you have, let's say you have a beautiful house on a hill and you want to rent it out for Airbnb. Well, that's nice. And so every weekend you have people coming from the city and they're renting out your house, and you're making money, and you're very happy about that. Except your neighbors don't like the noise from the parties that those people are throwing, and those people are parking on their lawns, and those people are throwing their trash in the streets. So the whole neighborhood goes, well, you might like what you're doing, but we don't. So when you consider doing something like that, you have to look at it as a community project. If I have a nice facility that I can sell on Airbnb, then maybe I want my neighbor to take care of cleaning that house after those people leave. Maybe I want another neighbor to take care of the gardening to make sure that the house has got a beautiful garden for our visitors. So you want to spread out the benefits of whatever you're doing to as many people you can in the community so they are all involved. Otherwise, if you do something and people are just sitting watching you do it and there's no benefit to them, very few times will they support your project. So you want community support. You want everybody involved. And if you do it, if you can do it, let's say you have a place, you only have one room, you're going to sell out one room on a Saturday night. You can say, well, I have my two neighbors that are right next door. They have the same view. So I'll get them to come for you. So now you're helping your neighbors do the same thing you're doing. So you can't do it by yourself. You have to work together. And if you do that, then there's opportunities, because as much as the world is concerned about the environment right now, everybody's concerned about the income, their lack of job. The reason that people are going back to rural areas is because they lost their jobs in the city. They're going back home. They don't have a job anymore. So they're saying, how can I make money to continue to support my family? So right now, that circle, those circles that Dr. Vic was talking about, I'm going to say that the people part is still very important. The economy part is even bigger. And you know what? You have to consider protecting the environment. But right now, the best way to protect the environment is to generate income so that you have the funds to protect the environment. That's sort of the balance I like to see.
Indeed, thank you so much. It's indeed that balancing the economy or the profit, and of course protecting our planet means protecting as well the people. That's indeed correct, and thank you so much. Another question from from Sir Gachi Gatchalian, the president of the Davao Tourism Association. His question is, what was your most recent memorable or unforgettable rural tourism adventure? This is intended for Dr. Nair.
Okay, for me, one of the most unique experience I had was when I was involved in this. I had a huge project, one of the last project that I did before leaving Malaysia. This is in a rural destination in Sarawak, next to Sabah. And to reach this destination, so this is the first time we're getting into this rural destination. It took us almost half a day to reach this village, taking two small planes, and then we had to hike in the jungle for about 2 hours. Then we reach a river boat, then take a boat with the local tribes, and for almost 2 hours, and we reach this village. And we are trying to introduce tourism to this village. So that was a unique experience for me, because they have no clue what is tourism all about. But at the same time, we had news that they want to know about tourism. So the most important, as what Dr. Andy mentioned as well, we had to get the buy-in of the whole community. We had to tell them the the pros and cons. Tourism is not always good. There are bad things that can happen if you don't manage tourism. So we had to educate the whole community. We had a town hall with the community and told them, this is what tourism is all about. And then the community got together and then decided that they want to try this out. They want to try rural tourism in this destination. So we planned, we organized homestays. These are real tribal house, very basic. So we said, okay, what is basic? So what is tourist friendly? What is not tourist friendly? So we started teaching them. So when I tracked them now, the last few years since I left that village, so now there's about almost 20 homestays in this village that had no tourists before. They had no clue what is tourist all about. And now there's about 20 homestays there. At the same time, we have one of the universities nearby tracking them, because we know when there's more tourists coming, what happens to the community? Is that going to be a problem within the community? So that experience for me, working with this local community from ground zero, from zero tourists to not understanding tourists to now being popular with tourist destination. It is a hardcore tourist destination because it is not meant for leisure family travel. It is meant for those who want to spend, who want to really understand who want to rough it out, staying in the village, staying in the jungle, experience the real experience of rural tourism. So that was one of the experience that I remember. This is in the name of the village is Long Lamai in Sarawak, Malaysia.
All right, thank you so much. Go ahead, Dr. Andy.
I've been to Davao, and one of my memorable experiences, which, see, I don't want to get on a plane. I don't want to get on 2 planes. I don't want to walk through the jungle for 2 hours just to stay in a homestay. Some people, but these days, people want to get in their car and drive someplace that they have never been before. And in Davao, the Eagle Sanctuary, you know, if I were to ask all the students there, how many people have you been to the Eagle Sanctuary you have there? You have a beautiful place where they show all the eagles, and the locals will say, no, I've never been there, because it's a tourist attraction, and locals don't go to tourist attractions. That is the kind of opportunity where that if you make it fun, it's a spread out place, improve the facilities, improve the attractions, offer social distancing events, that becomes a community attraction where people can go. The Banawi rice terraces, I've been to the Banawi rice terraces, but most of my Filipino friends have never been there. It's the kind of thing you take for granted. I grew up in New York City. I never went to the Empire State Building until I left New York and came back 20 years as a tourist. So taking advantage of your local tourism attractions is the opportunity for local communities right now. They call them stay vacations, homestays, all these things are good, but promoting those things. And for the local people, I'm going to tell you the one thing that I recommend for every local person to do in order to help the economy is get out and buy something. Support that one local restaurant that is open. Go out there and buy something. If there's a retail store that you have in your neighborhood, go buy something from them. Because if you don't, they're not going to have customers. They're going to close. So local economy is based on local spending. So get out there and do whatever you can do within the restrictions you have. Go and do it. So yes, to the people at Davao, I say, go out there and go visit the Eagle Sanctuary. I learned that the eagles I see out my window in Subic Bay are the red-breasted sea eagles. And I would have never have known that if I didn't go to that sanctuary. So I thank the tourism board for having that wonderful attraction.
All right, thank you so much. Another question here from Ms. Carmen Grace Altizo. This is intended for Dr. Vic. As a tourism planner, I am conducting a situational analysis in my rural area. What would be your advice to me?
Can you repeat again? I missed it.
All right. As a tourism planner, I am conducting a situational analysis in my rural area. What would be your advice?
Okay, situational analysis. So normally that's the first analysis that you carry out to baseline yourself. What is the current state of the particular destination? So if you're doing a study in the current state that we are in, so normally whenever we do a study during a period of crisis, you got to understand the mindset of the respondents are very different during a crisis period, and the response that you get may not be ideal. So you got to be wary of that. But if you're doing it in a normal situation, then the situational analysis will actually work. So you got to remember that for rural development, the views of the local community is critical. So meaning to say, you cannot run away from having a town hall session with the local community. So in rural development, rural tourism development, community-based tourism development, what is critical, normally what I do is I will always identify a local champion. Who is the local champion in that particular development place that you're trying to go? Always deal with the local champion. Once you get the buy-in of the local champion, then you get the buy-in of the people. You work along that way. But if you just go in, you will get thrown out if the locals are not happy with the development. So when you're doing a situational analysis, the first thing you got to do is go to the local champion, get the buy-in of the local champion. Okay, now let's see what do they have. Let's do a baseline study. What are the attractions that they have? What are the activities that they have? What are the infrastructure they have? What are the resources they have? And then where they are in terms of capacity, where they are in terms of skill. So you got to do all those kind of baseline information first before you can actually carry out whatever plan that you plan to do in that particular destination. So the baseline information is critical, because in many destinations, in many rural development destinations, the biggest challenge that we have is you do not have an updated baseline information. A lot of the baseline information are obsolete, or maybe it is 5 years old or 10 years old. And then you make a decision based on this because you don't want to go down at the ground. So you have to go down. In a rural development, there is no way you can develop the place without going down at the ground level and then doing the situational analysis of that destination that you are planning to do.
I agree with Dr. Vic. One example I can give, I was an advisor, consultant for a project in Korea where they wanted to build a casino resort. The whole world, everybody in the world wants to build casino resorts. And so it was Tybeck Mountain, which was an old coal mining facility that closed. So the economy was destroyed in that area. So they thought that building this big, massive casino resort would be the integrated resort would be the way to solve their problem. And, you know, in general, you would say, yeah, that might help. Except it took me 3.5 or 4 hours driving through a little windy road to get to this mountain. And then when I got there was no people there. It was a very small town. And they wanted to build this massive resort. So you have to sit back and look at it and say, does this make sense? And I told them it doesn't. You can't build a big facility if you don't have the infrastructure, the roads to get there. You can't build a big facility if you don't have the local employees to staff that place. And people aren't going to come for one purpose only. So yeah, where's your ski resort? You're on a mountain. Where's your golf resort? Where's your pools? Where's your amusement park? Where's all those things to make it a multi-purpose destination so that everyone wants to go? Today, many, many years later, now they have a freeway that goes to that facility. They have a train that goes to that facility, and they do have their ski resort. They do have their golf course, and my advice for them was start small, build a very, very small facility, and then grow over phases over time so that you don't putting too much stress on the environment, on the local community. And that actually worked over time. So it worked out to be a very good project for them.
Okay, thank you so much. We have another question here from Roan Policarpio. We want to be unique, but sometimes to the point of being not authentic and real and too much curated. What's your stand about this?
I think being authentic is critical, important. A lot of tourist destination, especially rural destination, the tendency is you tend to change your own norms and culture to suit what the tourists want, and this will impact the actual authenticity of your rural tourism product, because research has basically shown that the culture and the natural heritage is the most important aspect of the experience of rural destination. So if the tendency is for you to follow what a group of tourists wants, or you know that, okay, this my location is being, you're attracting a lot of Western tourists, or you're attracting a lot of Japanese tourists, and you know the norms of Japanese tourists. And as a result, you change. Yes, it's good. You're trying to you're trying to accommodate them, but at the same time, you do not change the authenticity of your own product that you're trying to sell over here. So the authenticity of a product is critical for rural destination, because in many destinations, let's say if you take the Philippines, you want to find an authentic tourism product which may be similar to a neighboring village. So how can you stand out? So what is so unique? Why should I come to you? If you look at even the Bahamas, all the islands look the same. If you go to the Caribbean, all the Caribbean islands have the best beaches in the world. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? They look at culture. The culture and heritage differentiate one island to another. The beach is the same, the best beaches in the world. It's picturesque view that you get. So you can't sell the beach anymore. So if you come to one destination in the Caribbean, it's the same everywhere else. But what makes it unique is the culture and heritage. That's the authenticity of the culture is important. The heritage is important. It differs from one place to another, from one community to another. Every community will have something unique. So you got to find what is authentic, what is so unique, and how can we scale this up to the next level.
You know, my example of that would be, you know, I lived and worked in Las Vegas for over 22 years. That's where I went to school. And Las Vegas is the biggest fake destination in the entire world. It's the middle of the desert. There is absolutely nothing there. There is no reason to go to Las Vegas, except for all of the tourism attractions that were created to attract people. So yes, all the, you know, if you go into a casino, I always use casino examples. A blackjack table is the same at every casino in the world. And so after they started opening up casinos around the world, what happened to the business in Las Vegas? You would think it would disappear. No, it went up because nobody does it better. So it's not a matter of you're all the same, it's who does it better. If it's a cultural difference, great. If it's a service quality difference, great. If it's a food quality, great. Offer something. You have to offer something that other people don't offer so that they come to your property. It's a simple challenge, but it's not an easy solution.
Yes, true enough that knowing our strength as a country or as a place is tantamount to sustaining our business.
And
Another question.
I have to disagree with Dr. Vic. The Philippines has the best beaches in the world.
Yes, Philippines have as many islands. I think more islands. The Bahamas, we have 700 islands, 700 small islands, but I think Philippines has more islands than the Bahamas.
Yeah.
So you do have beautiful beaches over there.
We have more than 7,000 islands and
Yeah.
islets here. All right, another question. Good morning, Dr. Andy and Dr. Vic. You have made mention earlier that there must be a good governance. My question is, if you're given a chance to be a leader in just one day, what law or restrictions you would like to implement to protect and preserve rural tourism areas? That as a tourism student, it is something to concede. That this question is from Mr. Jimboy Gapos.
Wow, okay, that's a difficult one. So what can I do? Well, I think the most important thing that I will look at is the laws with regards to how local community are involved or in participating in decisions done at the central level. Quite often in many destinations, it is top down, where you get decision coming from the top and then decision goes down. So I think what is critical is in a good governance structure, it has to be bottom up. So there must be voice from the local community. Is a local community's voice is taken into consideration for any decision making in rural development. Because a lot of destination, in my own experience, even in Malaysia, working in a lot of rural destination in Malaysia, rural destination is used by the politicians. Okay, they use the vulnerability of the rural destination, the vulnerability of the rural people who's not aware of the challenges that is happening that is born on them, and how this politician actually make use of them. to win votes. So rural, the voices of the local community is normally not taken into consideration for any projects. And I think that's one of the most critical things that I will look at. I think the first thing is any rural development must be led by the locals, must be led from bottom up, not the other way around. So if you do not give sufficient voice to the local community to any decision making, then this project may fail because it may not sustain. It may be because someone is politically involved and a particular development has taken place. And then when you have a change of power, that development goes off. So this you have seen happening in many parts of the world. And because there is no proper law that is put in place where you ensure that any rural development, the focus has to be local community involvement before it can go to the next level.
All right. So thank you so much. We are now entertaining last two more questions.
Hey, I still want to answer the last question.
All right.
No, actually, I have a short comment. I agree with Vic. It's law. My key, if I were to say one thing, it would be zoning. You know, Boracay over the years was harmed because people built anything, anywhere, anytime. There were no rules. So zoning in any community is good. There should be a place where this is a zone for the restaurants. This is a zone for entertainment. These are zones where you can't build anything. This where you're not allowed to build something. And if you don't have that zoning, then it's a free-for-all. People do whatever they want. So once the zoning rules are decided, that even if the government changes, then they have to fight to change the zoning rules. So protected areas is actually done by zoning, saying this is a protected area. You can't build anything. National parks in the U.S. are a good example. They are the same for 50 years or more because they're not allowed to build in those areas. And sometimes they do. Sometimes they do build, but it's very difficult to do so. So zoning law would change.
Yeah, so just to add on to Andy, zoning is critical, but zoning must also come with carrying capacity and limit, because in many destinations, you do have carrying capacity. If you look at Boracay, they had carrying capacity, but the problem was carrying capacity is based on numbers, not based on quality. You may have sufficient, you are within the carrying capacity, but you're attracting destructive tourists. The tourists is within the carrying capacity, but they're destroying more. So what do you do about it? They say, oh, I'm within my carrying capacity, but you have actually destroyed even more. Meaning to say, there's another concept now. What we use very often in tourism, we call it the limit of acceptable change, LAC. Limit of acceptable change basically looks at the destination, not based on a number. It looks at what is the impact. If you see there's a change that is happening in the environment, there's a change that is happening in the social cultural behavior of the people, that means there's something wrong with the number over there. It is not based on a particular number. So number is not as important, but what is important is the quality. What is happening to the quality of the destination? So when you have zoning, you can monitor that. In this particular zone, how is the quality? It may be within the carrying capacity or it may be above the carrying capacity, but you are managing it well. So the number makes no difference as long as the quality is well taken care of.
Indeed. Another question here from Mr. Christian Jam Hukinyo. As researchers and doctors, have you done any research about crafting tourism strategies for new normal? And what can students, or what research potential that students can focus on, especially with the effects of pandemic to the holistic aspect of tourism industry?
I think a lot of new change that is taking place because we are moving in a new norm. And as I've said, we are learning as we go. So there is a lot of research that needs to take place. So one of the things that I mentioned in my presentation was when I talk about regenerative tourism. Although this concept first came in 2007, it died off. Why? Because mass tourism overtook and people totally forgot about it. But now people started looking at it. Okay, I think this concept is becoming more important now. So before a tourism development that is going to take place, especially in rural destination, you need to make an evaluation how this development is going to help. Is it just by number or is it going to really help that particular destination? But more research needs to be done to find out what are the what are the constructs that is required before a destination can be developed to a next level. So what are the important constructs that will improve the destination, not just to sustain, but is going to make it better. So so a lot of research now is very much not focused on that area, but because of the changes that is taking place now with the new norm that we are in, so I think we are still grappling with the situation of, okay, how do we move the hotel and tourism industry, like what Andy have mentioned now, all the new norms in place. How are you going to change? Because this is going to be for a while, and all you know, you may be experiencing another pandemic. And this is the new world that we are in now. So we cannot run away. We cannot be blocking ourselves like this forever. We have to live with this. So how do we sustain ourselves? So there's more research that needs to be done in all aspects of the functioning of the tourism industry, because tourism is a people industry. So if you are going to be using a digital communication, everything is going to be digital. So is this really going to work? So more research needs to be done, and I see there's a lot of potential for research that is going to come out. In fact, there's a lot of publications already started coming out post-pandemic. What are the things, how the industry going to evolve itself?
You know, as far as students, the students are in a challenging position right now. And we were chatting before the show about practicals and getting their experience and those things. So the key word I'm going to tell students right now is volunteer. Yes, volunteer for free. You are not going to learn anything sitting in your dorm room watching TV or an online. Okay, so if you can go volunteer at a local restaurant and say, I'll sweep those floors for you today, sir. I'll learn how. I'm going to watch the customers you have. I'll do your inventory today. Let me help you. Let me help the tourism authority with an event they have coming on. Volunteer, because that experience is going to position you for success when this is over. But if you sit home, those people that are volunteering, getting that experience, they're going to have an advantage over you. So don't sit at home. Go help a local community shelter. Go help a local community foods place. Go help your local restaurant. Anybody you can help, but don't sit at home all day waiting for things to get better. As a community, you have to help the community get better yourself.
All right, so thank you so much. We are down to our last question. This question is from Sebastian Brittinger. I hope that I did pronounce your name properly. Do you think that people who prefer rural tourism and ecotourism are these kind of people who generally have a more eco lifestyle and are more conscious about the environment?
Not necessarily. You may have people who are conscious of the environment to want to experience ecotourism and rural tourism. But at the same time, you also have people who are not conscious of it, but who wants to learn about it. Because as I've said in my presentation, you can sell rural tourism in different ways. Okay, you can sell tourism in the environment. You can sell tourism about the environment. So there's so many ways of selling this. So different types of people needs different things. So if you look at the current norm that we are in, a lot of the urban tourists who have never experienced rural tourism wants to experience rural tourism now, because that is the safest place for them. They don't want to be seen in a mass tourist destination. They don't want to go and spend their time in a crowded restaurant. They want to get away. So meaning to say that the trend is changing. Maybe in the past, people who value rural, people who value ecotourism, only those kind of special, unique tourists that come. But now things have changed. More and more people want to just get away to these places. So rural destination is boom time for rural tourism. If you plan it well, if you design it well, you can really do well. But you got to follow the norm. You got to follow the protocols that is going to be putting in place, because the tourists of tomorrow, the tourists of today, the current tourists that we have are all looking for that. They want to see, do you have all this protocol in place? Am I safe to come to your place? The moment you can convince them, yes, you're going to attract all kind of tourists, not just tourists who are conscious of the environment, but even urban tourists. They want to get away. They want to bring their family to a safe place. So I think this is the way forward for tourism in at least for the next few years to come.
And I would say that the average person that's sitting in Manila or some other big city is not an eco-tourist person, but I'll say maybe a little different, maybe a wellness tourism. They want to go someplace that's healthy. They want to go someplace where they can listen to the music at the spa, and they don't care if it's a local music or not. They just want nice music, and they want to enjoy themselves in a healthy, well-being way. And ecotourism and rural tourism fits that together very, very nicely. So wellness, health, eco, and rural, all those things combined is a way to think as a strategy when you're starting to design some type of activity in the rural development.
All right, so that concludes our question and answer portion. This day have been very fruitful and insightful, and I'm pretty sure that we have gained a lot of new learning from the invigorating topics that our speakers have shared to us. At this moment in time, allow me to present and award the certificate of appreciations to our amazing and extreme speakers this morning. So let me read to you the citation. First, Joji Ilagan International Schools, Governor Chavez Street, Davao City, Philippines. Appreciation to Dr. Andy Nazarechuk for imparting his valuable knowledge as guest speaker during the Fostering Rural Tourism Development webinar with the topic Seizing Opportunities for Rural Tourism in celebration of the World Tourism Day 2020, Tourism and Rural Development, hosted by the Joji Ilagan International Schools, Davao City, Philippines, and co-hosted by the Davao Tourism Association, given this 27th day of September 2020 via Zoom video conferencing, signed by the Vice President for Education Development and Chief Operating Officer of the Joji Ilagan International Schools, Ms. Nicole Nina I. Bian Ledesma. Let us give Dr. Randy our virtual round of applause, please.
Thank you for that certificate, Nicole. I appreciate it.
The same certificate of appreciation is also awarded to Dr. Vikneswaran Nair.
Yay!
There you go. Thank you so much for, again, giving us amazing insights this morning. At this moment in time, in celebration of the World Tourism Day, since you have also made mention a while ago, Dr. Vic, that we need to support locals. So
Yes.
in support of the local farmers we have here, since we are dubbed as chocolate capital of the Philippines. So we are going to be having this virtual toast, and may I request our participants to please prepare with you the chocolate, or we call this as sikwati. Sikwate, it's actually a native
Sikwate.
Filipino thick hot chocolate. I would like to give now the floor to Sir Gachi Gatchalian, the president of Davao Tourism Association.
Mabuhay ug madayaw. So happy World Tourism Day to everyone. So please raise your sikwate or chocolate drink. Please raise your mug, whatever kind of drink you have. So first, here's to traveling again in the future to explore the world. But for now, rural tourism, where we can experience the beauty of our very own locality. But I'm putting a twist to locality. That's local hospitality, the essence of Filipino brand of service. So locality or local hospitality. Let's discover new domestic tourism that we can offer, because we are luckier, because we are closer to local attractions and adventures. To remind everyone, wag maging dayuhan sa sariling bayan, or don't be a stranger in your own place. That's why I'm giving new meaning to rural. So I'd like to just share something. I have a slide. Here. If Esel will allow me. Okay. Can everybody see this one? Rural. Can you see this, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
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 So what do I mean by rural? Here, Are you ready adventuring local? So go for rural tourism and cheers.
Yes.
Cheers
Cheers.
to everyone.
Cheers to everyone.
Cheers, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Gachi, for that wonderful toast to this very important event.
You're welcome, Joji. Very much welcome.
I
Thank
like
you.
the word rural.
Yes. we're
Yes.
giving it a new meaning.
Yeah, Davao, let's go.
Go rural, Davao, let's go.
Yeah, go.
May we take this opportunity to have a photo opportunity with our Sekwate.
Yep.
So everyone, turn their cameras on. Okay.
All right, Sir Ken, do the honors to do the virtual picture taken.
All right, so raise your mugs and say rural.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Happy World
everyone.
Tourism Day.
Thank you, Dr. Andy and Dr. Vic. As usual, you were both so inspiring and one of the best speakers actually I have known. You continue to wow all of them. Thank you, Dr. Andy and Dr. Vic.
Thank you for having us with us today, Joji, Nicole, for really giving us this invitation. I think I always enjoy my sessions. I mean, I've done a few sessions in the Philippines, face to face and also virtually, and every session that I come in is always something that I always look forward to.
And thank you for having me, and I look forward to seeing you all again in Davao someday. I hope I return, and I hope we'll see you on our Wednesday 30-minute talks at 2 o'clock. It's a great show, and it's the purpose of the program is to educate students on hospitality and tourism topics. So join us on Wednesday at 2 o'clock.
Thank you so much. We are not done yet. I would like to request our students to please evaluate our webinar. And if you want more of this, of course, you can give us recommendations on what webinar would you like to have. And of course, let's support Dr. Andy with his 30-minute talk. I tell you, it's amazing. So here's the evaluation, or we have set our evaluation link, and you can also take photo of this QR code.
I would also like to thank the three past presidents of APacCHRIE here. We're so honored to have you, Dr. Carol Pido, Dr. Vic, and Dr. Andy. Wow, we have three past presidents now. Perfect celebration for our World Tourism Day. We have the icons of tourism and hospitality education right in this webinar. How fortunate we all can get. And thank you, Davao Tourism Association, President Gach, for your sustainable and regenerative leadership always. It gets better every day, Gach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, I would have to agree because Sir Gach is the Gach of all trades. At this moment,
I like this, Gach of all trade. It's a
at
new
this
name,
moment in time, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Anne Margaret Piligon, MBA TRM, CAT, the Tourism Coordinator, for the synopsis.
All right. Mabuhay ug madayaw. First of all, I would like to personally thank our speakers for today. We are very indeed honored that Dr. Andy and Dr. Nair was able to grace this prestigious event we usually made every year. So at this juncture, let me just share to you some insights that we have taken from our speakers. So with our welcome remarks today, Ms. Nicole Niña-Halbian gave us the challenge on how to be a strong advocate with the importance of rural tourism. Now, when Dr. Andy Nazarechuk started his presentation, he says that the best option in facing the pandemic is to really face the challenge that we are having right now. We don't just stop with everything. Everyone is locked up at home and gets bored. And the only way to escape is to travel from this boredom. But again, we can't just do that. People want to go out to do things like attending concerts and other sports events. People want to engage in new normal and have unique experiences. So now we're adapting the new normal. We try to go online. And this is the time that we are very lucky to get opportunities such as this, to get in touch and continue to communicate and learn from each other, watching movies together and having these online experiences, which are not really done during the old times we had. So all these things were not really impossible to do. So the ways to escape is to take advantage with the local experiences and help the economy, supporting the local economy. Get outdoor experiences and come up with creative examples such as the rural places that we have. Rural area has a great space. He emphasized that. This is where the opportunity that we can make use of the environment and get breathing of some fresh air. These are ways to escape from confinement, private experience, fresh air, and get good food service, or even having a romantic setup outdoor. But we need to know that the places we're going and who serves those services or those suppliers. Unique and close to nature experiences, but considering its sustainability, such as the container that we're bringing for our own trashes, so that we also practice the 3 R's. Each area should also be considered like the specialization, the specialty that they have, like in China. The vow has been emphasized that we may have so much to offer whom we have taken for granted. But again, we may do something interesting that others would find it very interesting. Now we were also challenged that we create a unique experience, such as where pomelo came from and the experience on how we harvest that. We also consider Airbnb, but ensure security and safety level, good lighting and cleanliness level must be equally the same with the 5-star hotel. And of course, the creativity level and stable internet connection must be also considered. So Dr. Andy, as an educator and entrepreneur, we should be really taking a step and never cease in finding opportunities, even with the pandemic. And he also inviting us to join the weekly webinars he have every Wednesday, which is actually free to all. So for Dr. Vikneswaran Nair, who's the Dean of Graduate Studies and Research of the University of the Bahamas, he also started with launching his book entitled Responsible Rural Tourism in Asia during the pre-event of World Tourism Day, which was yesterday. So this talks about the best practices in rural tourism. Now, there was a question that Dr. Nair asked during the pre-COVID. So what are the possibilities for rural development after the pandemic? Many interfaces of Asian cultural and natural heritage with tourism, and some are even having the stereotype that when we say rural, it's cheap. Rural tourism sector as a key driver for social and economic growth for developing and low-income countries in significant parts of Asia. Dr. Vic presented about the outbreak revolution for the current 10 most affected countries, from 6,000 cases in February to 100,000 in March to 37 million in September 2020. With longer period of recovery projected the impact it has created in the world economy has been staggering. There are 3 key motivators that will prompt people to travel during this post-COVID. That includes the traveler's health and safety, family travel, and domestic tourism, travel sales, promotions, and deals. Dr. Nair said, we cannot be in lockdown forever. We consider that this pandemic will proceed even for the next coming years. So how far we find the right rural tourism development to overcome this dilemma? Responsible rural tourism is the answer. Tourism operations that are managed in a sustainable way that it can continue to deliver the benefits for years to come for the community. The growth of rural destination being a niche tourism have also increased the amount of stress to economically, socially, and environmentally. So we should also check the important balance between the volume and type of rural tourist activity, and the sensitivities of the limit of the resources must be regulated in a natural environment. Carrying capacity has not been checked or adhered to other Philippine destinations. Uniqueness of rural tourism in Asia is also critical for the global sustainability of rural tourist destinations and must be understood. That sustainability does not mean that the destination's quality of life will be lost. That is why we have the 3 Ps, or the 3 pillars. That is people for social aspect, the planet that includes the environment, and profit or the economy must be in equilibrium. Defining rural tourism may differ depending on the economic development phase of the nation. Some activities may not be applicable with other rural destinations. That's why we give visitors a personalized contact, a taste of physical and human environment of countryside, and as far as possible, allows them to participate in the activities, tradition, and lifestyle of local people. So the core dimension of rurality includes location, characteristics or purpose of visit and attractions and activities, sustainability, and stakeholders. So how do we move forward with tourism post-COVID-19? Tourism being the world's largest employer, affecting global changes almost everywhere. So will it reemerge as an agent of local and global change? Build back better, happier, and fitter for sustainability? So we can learn from Bhutan's in particular, or Bhutan's country. They do not only focus on the gross domestic product, but gross national happiness. That includes care, compassion, comprehension, and collaboration, following the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which is Bhutan's Happiness Index. So again, we consider re-emerging of regenerative tourism, over-tourism to under-tourism to high-yield tourism that focus experiential tourism travel that focus on recovery of the destination. So rural tourism is all about in for the environment, about the environment, and for the environment. So the new norms such as adventure tourism, the nature wildlife tourism, and ecotourism. So time for a new normal and how to stay resilient is doing advancing despite adversity. It's not as business as usual anymore mindset. Resilient, good governance, diversification of the economy, or even agritourism. We should also consider the rainy day fund because this is the reserve fund that is put in place to sustain and able to withstand. So as a final conclusion of Dr. Nair, the demand for the rural tourism products has significantly increased in recent years. Post-COVID-19, the demand will further increase. So we focus on offering an essentially Asian form or Philippine form or responsible rural tourism. That is to ensure that whatever development, we make sure that we are ready to what is taking shape. With that, I'd like to greet everyone a happy World Tourism Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Anne Margaret Pilingon, for the synopsis. At this moment in time, to formally end our webinar, the president of the voluntary organization of the Joji Ilagan International Schools, will leave us her closing remarks, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Carmen Grace Altizo.
Mabuhay og madayaw. I hope, are we still good and comfortable on our seats? For sure we are, because our minds are already filled with essential facts and information on how we could greatly contribute to develop the rural areas, at the same time preserve its unique beauty of cultural traditions, heritage, values, and beliefs. Through this webinar, we are able to celebrate the role of tourism in providing job opportunities not just in big cities, but also in rural communities. With that, I, Carmen Grace Altizo, President of the Voluptuaria or Tourism Organization of the Joji Ilagan International Schools, would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our speakers, Dr. Andy Nazarechuk and Dr. Vikneswaran Nair, for sharing their insights and expertise about tourism and rural development. Their presence has been invaluable and has helped make the event a great success. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our Davao Tourism Association President, Mr. Gachi Gatchalian. Thank you for gracing our invitation, sir. To our dearest chairwoman of the Joji Ilagan International Schools, we thank you for giving us the environment of excellence. Warmest gratitude as well to our ever dynamic and supportive Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Nicole Nina Halbian Ledesma. Also, we greatly appreciate the support we have received from our tourism coordinator, Ms. Anne Margaret Pilingon. To the organization moderators, Ms. Joji Rose Parondo Ang, co-moderators, Sir Isel Cabrera and Ms. Janine Carla Galvez, whose contributions we highly appreciate. To my fellow officers, thank you for your time, effort, and hard work on making this event successful. And of course, a great thank you to all the participants who gathered virtually, coming from different parts of the world, for your amazing participation. I do hope that everything we learn from this webinar will be applied as we journey towards the tourism and development in and out of our country. Truly, this pandemic can stop us to soar higher than ever. Thank you and all the best. Happy World Tourism Day.
Thank you so much, Ms. Altizo. Once again, a million thanks to everyone, to our speakers, Dr. Andy and Dr. Vic, to our data partners, students, tourism practitioners, to the voluptuaria, and the rest of the members of the Joji Ilagan International Schools. Let us do our part as future tourism professionals in making the world a better place. As one family in this world, in celebration of the World Tourism Day, let us use our power in lifting up our industry back by using our ability and creativity in adapting to new possibilities that will be and can be our driving forces in the pursuit of our commitment. Indeed, we cannot go surfing if we don't go with the waves. Let us continue to inspire ourselves in unleashing our passion and pledge for excellent tourism industry. Let us continue to help as one, support our local community as one. So as one, we can make or we can win this pandemic as one family, as one nation, one community, one world. I am Isel Cabrera, your virtual master of ceremony, leaving you a quote or a word. Stay safe, stay at home, dream, and wake up to your dream destination tomorrow. This is the World Tourism Day 2020, Rural and Tourism Development. Thank you and mabuhay.
Mabuhay.
Okay.